This video is a continuation from the previous video. Time management and self-management are essential to your success as a design student, because if you do not submit your assignments in completed and on time, you won't pass your courses. I mean, that's just not negotiable. College is earn a degree. And in order to earn it, you have to submit work in order to get points. Essentially, what you're doing with your assignments is this. We're presenting material to you to learn. Your assignments are showing us whether or not you've learned the material. Your grade is a reflection of whether or not you have learned the material well. If you don't learn the material, if you have not demonstrated, let me back this up. You may have learned it, but if you don't demonstrate it, then it will reflect in your grade and you will not pass this course or any of these courses. And so I want to make sure everybody understands that up front, that the expectation for college is that you are submitting work for assessment to show that you have learned the material. And the faculty are deciding how we want to see that, how you can prove that, how you can demonstrate that. And that is because we're experts in our field and we know what that looks like. So time management and self-management, which is management of yourself, are essential, because if you don't apply them and don't learn them, you're not only not going to be successful in industry, you're not going to make it to industry because you're not going to be successful in the classroom. You absolutely positively have to keep your electronic files organized. And again, my heart goes out to those of you guys who are like, well, I'm just not organized, because I'm just not organized. So I had to force myself to do this. I have to force myself to do this. Before I start any project, I go ahead and set up my structure. It makes it a whole lot easier when I'm working not to have to stop my creative flow to think about these things. Because that's why a lot of people don't do it. It's because they're in the middle of doing something else and like, oh, I'll get to it later. And they don't. And so I have had students get in front of the class to present work, and they have plugged in their jump drive into the computer. And this was over 10 years ago. And they had no folders, and they had named their files things that don't make sense weeks later, much less years later. And he couldn't find what he was looking for, and he probably had 500 files in his main folder. And he couldn't find it. He couldn't present it. He got a 0 on his presentation because of it. So set this up first. Okay, this is what I do, and it works. I'm not saying you have to do what I do, but at least do something, figure out what works for you, and do that. And in this case, what I'm going to recommend is to set up your structure first. Wherever you store your files, don't do it on your main computer. It will slow down your memory. Get an external drive. It will speed up when you're working in software, it will speed that up. Save to your external drive. Create folders, name of the program, name of the course, and then, module 1, assignment 1, right? So you can then have these folders so that you know exactly where you put the work. And then something else I do is when I'm done working on a piece of work on something, I have another folder that says final work, and I move that or a copy of that into my final folder. So whenever I need to immediately find the final end result, I know which one's the right one and exactly where it is, because I have a whole bunch of different working files and folders. And I recently was working with someone who kept attaching the wrong document because she wasn't well organized. And she kept attaching earlier iterations of a document. And I was like, this isn't the right one. This isn't the right one. And it ate up my time. And as somebody, she actually was doing work for me. And as somebody who was the client, I was getting very frustrated and aggravated that I was having to spend my time doing her job. And, it makes people not want to work with you. And we don't want that happening. We want people to not only want to work with you, but to recommend you. Because I can tell you, my youngest brother is a contractor. He does residential restoration and any work, but I mean, he does strictly residential, and he's done some restoration work in Savannah on some of those historic homes. And when the economy got really bad, he was hiring people who own their own businesses who went out of business because his work, what he did for his clients, his service to his clients was so good that no matter how bad things got with the economy, he still kept his company. And he gets recommended all the time. He does not advertise. He has more work than he can keep. He gets to turn down the projects he doesn't want to work on. Also, you guys are going to meet industry professionals. Some of them will be your professors in future courses, and they all have the same. They all have the same issue, right? They have a list of clients waiting to work with them because they are so good at what they do and their customer service is so exceptional that people are willing to wait to work with them specifically. And one of the things that's important to do in order to be that type of company, to be that type of designer, is organization. Because if you can't find that document that your client needs, or you send the wrong document to the contractor, you're going to cost your client money and they're not going to be happy about it. So no, this is important. Again, I came out of industry, other faculty came out of industry. We're talking about the realities of this field. This is not theoretical. This is how this industry operates. And we're talking about it first so you'll understand why you need to value these things. You really want to create dedicated workspace. It makes it a whole lot easier for you to have space that is safe and comfortable for you to work in. And you'll have to decide what that is. I can't tell you what that is. That varies from person to person. And also, work at the time of day that works for you. I don't think I put that further down. So I want to bring this up now. If you work best at 3:00 in the morning, that's when you should work. Now, I know sometimes when you're working with other people that you have to work on their schedule, but when you're doing your work in your environment. It does help and it does matter, because the more comfortable you are, the more creative you will be and the more work you'll get done. And on your electronic drive, keep separate folders, or if you're a notebook person, keep separate notebooks. You'll be very happy later on when your short-term memory has faded that you have done this. Clean up after the end of a project. Now, there's some debate about this issue. It is believed that clutter helps enhance creativity. But what I'm talking about is when you get ready to get started on a new project, move stuff from the previous project off so you don't confuse it with the current project. And also that if you're looking at stuff from your last project, it tends to influence what you're doing. You want to move it out of your eyesight. You want to start fresh because you're trying to create something new and original. I'm highly encouraging you all to keep an art book. There'll be references to this in other courses, and you'll see there's some sketches here that students are doing. You just never know when the ideas are going to hit you, and I assure you they hit you when you didn't think to bring your art book. So just carry it with you at all times. And then when you have these ideas, write them down. If they wake you up at 3:00 in the morning, go ahead and write them down. You will forget them. 100% guaranteed you will forget them. And then you'll be upset that you've lost a great idea. So just go ahead and spend the time writing it down. And that way you have that idea or that solution. Quite often, another interesting way the brain works is that when you think about something before you go to sleep, your unconscious brain will process it. I tell students, when you start with your project, the very first thing you want to do is read it. Immediately, your unconscious brain will start trying to process it. If you wait until the day before it's due to read it for the first time, you will have wasted, not only are you not going to finish it or get a good grade, but you will have wasted that unconscious processing time for however long you had prior. The minute you read it, your unconscious brain will start processing it and you'll be working even while your brain is asleep or you're thinking about other things. So the sooner you get started, the better. Learn to prioritize, know when to study, know when to survive, when to socialize. It's really, really important. And you should have at least twice as much time for working on projects or assignments as you do for social activities. It's a very demanding area of study, but a very rewarding career path. And then master the art of overestimation. We as humans tend to underestimate our amount of time it takes to do something. That's why you want to, when you're working, be more conscious of how long it took you to actually do something. That helps you resolve this. You should know that every project or assignment that you're going to do cannot be done overnight. It cannot be done in a few hours. And if you do this, it will reflect in your grade, and your grade will not be passing. Okay? Projects that are going to be assigned to you will be given to you in advance so that you can spend days, weeks, and months completing them, depending on, where we are in the program. And I tell people this, it basically does come down to this. If you're not wanting to work on your assignments, this may not be the right field for you. Design for many is a compulsion. I use the term addiction. I'm addicted to design. I design everything. I design food. I design how I'm going to dress. I design how I'm going to arrange things. So it's something that you should be always engaged in and enjoy doing. Procrastination may mean that this just isn't what you want to do. It may mean you don't want to work on it. And if you don't work on it, you're not going to succeed. Now, if you do know that this is something that you want to work on, but other issues are at play, there are ways we can resolve that. There are things around that. One of the things you can do, this is a great way to relieve a creativity block, is to tell yourself when you feel anxious, I'm excited. Just keep telling your brain that. Let your conscious brain tell your unconscious brain, I'm excited. I'm excited that I'm going to work on this. And here's another thing that may help you. Do something in private, and if it's something that you think just stinks, throw it away. Nobody will know. And one thing most people don't realize is that the time you invest in doing something wrong or bad or however you want to label it actually helps you find the right solution. Thomas Edison figured out 1,000 different ways on how not to create the storage battery. I know people say light bulb. It wasn't the light bulb. It was a storage battery, or at least, the historian I read said this. And someone asked him, how does it feel to have failed 1,000 times? He's like, failed? What do you mean failed? I know 1,000 ways not to create a storage battery. That is useful. And it's useful because if you know that this solution doesn't work, you won't do that again. You won't do those things again. You won't waste your time repeating that. So don't ever see, and I'm using air quotes, and you guys can't see me, failures as failures. No quotes, right? Failures with quotes as failures with no quotes. It is not a failure to make mistakes. Now, you don't want to turn that in. You don't want to submit that. But any time that you're working and learning and creating is valuable time invested in yourself. Okay? I'll stop this video here and we'll continue in the next.